Hey, I'm Chattanooga football coach Rusty Wright, and this is the No Playbook Podcast.
All right, thanks for checking out the show. It's the podcast featuring the outstanding athletes and coaches from East Tennessee. Chattanooga Mocs fans, I want to check out my recent episodes with Chase Artopius, Jay Person, even McClendon Curtis was on the show not long ago. If you're a big college football fan, you might want to check out the recent episode where I featured about 30 of the nation's top high school recruits for the 2025 class. They're all 4- and 5-star guys. It was at an On3 Elite event where D1 Training was the main sponsor. By the way, current Chattanooga Mock, Dave Minot, he's a starting offensive lineman. He's going to be running a football clinic with VFL Kevin Simon for offensive linemen and defensive linemen at D1 Chattanooga. That's set for later this month, Saturday the 29th. All the skills guys, that they get so much love with camps and different opportunities. So we really wanted to make sure that these guys had a cool opportunity. You can just head to @D1 Chattanooga on social media to find out more details on how to get signed up for that camp. Today on the show, I've got UTC head coach Rusty Wright. Coach Wright joins me to talk about his team for this upcoming fall, how he's been navigating all the recent changes in the college football landscape, and he even gives out some superlatives for his team, past and current players. This episode is sponsored by D1 Training. D1 is the place for the athlete. I'll get to Coach Rusty Wright after this. Hang on.
D1 is the place for the athlete. When you join the D1 team, you don't just go to a gym. You're part of a team, a family.
Family on three. 1, 2, 3. Family.
Something more than just a gym.
Here we go.
If you're looking for a place to get better, to improve, to strive for the goals that you have, then D1 might be the right place for you.
At the 15. Okay? You are bringing it down.
Book your free one-on-one assessment today. Don't wait.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. D1.
Just do what we do this time of year.
Yeah. How do they buy in like this early? Are they?
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, we probably don't do as much with them as everybody else does. I think it's important for them to still be guys at times, still be college students. I really do. I think it's important for them we do everything in the morning. So they're done with us at 11 o'clock for the day. A couple of them have class. A lot of them work a job. We've got a guy working over at the country club, got guys working all over town and in the afternoons. And so that's the difference here than it is a lot of places. I mean, I can't pay for everything. We take care of them pretty good during the summer, but not as good as Tennessee or Georgia or those kind of places. But, I think it's still important for them to beat college students to a certain degree. I think that's how they get burnt out, honestly, and I think that's how they don't enjoy it, because I want them when we start to be ready to enjoy it. All the guys that are older, we'll give them off the week of the 4th. It's kind of a discretionary period. You can't make it mandatory. The NCAA won't let you make it mandatory. So, the older guys that have been here from the start, I'm like, if y'all want to be here, weight room's open, not going to take roll or anything like that. You come in and lift. If you want to get out of here, get out of here. Because when you come back, there's no turning back till we get done, and knock on wood, it's worked for us. That's the biggest thing. Every place is a little different, and you have to do it a little different at this level everywhere. And our guys, seem to enjoy it that way. So I hadn't changed that part of the program at all.
Yeah. I've got a buddy that played with you many years ago. He described you as quite the player's coach.
Who's that?
His name's Brad Pesterfield.
Know the name. Yeah.
Okay. Special teams guy. This was probably early 2000s.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing is, like, I think so much now, like we go work these camps, and you go to these other places, and they're doing stuff, and we'll do stuff with them a couple of times during the summer as coaches. But man, in the summer, strength coaches got them. I mean, let's figure out a way to get bigger, faster, stronger, and the football part will take care of itself when we get to it. Because it's helped us getting stronger more than anything else, the way we've done things the last couple of years going into a season. So we'll see.
Talk about those summer jobs. We've got so Dave Minot,
Yeah.
Nick Ceramelli.
Ceramelli.
Yeah, he worked with like Chris Houston.
Yeah.
All guys that have worked with us at D1.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what's different. Like our place compared to like Furman. Okay. Most of my kids have to go work. You know, I mean, they just don't come from families like that. That you know, they have to scratch and claw to make it, just like we all did growing up. And you know, Furman, I'm sure most of those kids come from 2-parent homes, and they have, you know, a guy that works them out, and they got their meals cooked and all that kind of stuff at home and all that. My kids don't come from those kind of backgrounds most of the time.
Well, now during the summer, do you take any time like for
Yeah.
you?
Oh yeah. I'll go. You know, we have that discretionary week. I'll go to the beach. We'll actually go down to Destin for a couple of weeks, my wife and I, because I don't really go anywhere else any other time during the year. I take a couple of small trips, maybe once a year, but we'll go down there for a couple of weeks and hang out and just get away. And you know, and then when I come back, it's you're in it till it's over. You know, and then whenever that seems to be. So Christmas probably. You know, I mean, for a couple of days. So.
I bet that dead period week is like in Destin and Panama City. I bet it's crazy.
It is interesting.
Yeah,
it is. It is interesting to say the least. Yeah,
it's all athletes on the beach.
Well, for the most part, it gets that way at some times. Yeah, for sure.
So, what do you think the team looks like for this coming up fall?
You know, we had a really good off season starting in January. We had a really good off season there. I think that part went well. You know, the thing that's different is, you know, with this group, we started spring ball, brought in some high school. We had some high school kids graduate early, came in. We had some transfers. It's so much different now going into a season than it used to be. You kind of have a team. You kind of have a team you went through spring practice with. Then you kind of have a team you go through the summer with when everybody gets here and does that. And then you kind of got to figure out what kind of team you got during fall camp and leading up into the fall, because each one of them are different. It's different than it used to be 5-10 years ago when you had guys for 3, 4, 5 years and you kind of could, you know, count on who was where and all that. I like what these guys have done since January. I mean, we had a good off season. We had a good season, year in the spring in the classroom. We had a 3.0 GPA as a program this spring, and they've come back, you know, so far with the right frame of mind. I like the group of seniors we have. We don't have many. We only got like 15, maybe 14 on scholarship. I think we've got a chance to have a good football team. What that looks like, I'm not sure. I'm a little leery. I might have outscheduled us a little bit to a certain degree with the schedule we've got coming up. But I like where we're moving. I like the direction we're moving. We could have a better football team than last year and not quite have the same record or a better record, you know, if that makes sense. But I think we've got pieces in place to have a good football team. I really do. And the work ethic to go get that done. I really do. I think, you know, quarterback's coming back, running back's back. Got 3 or 4 offensive linemen coming back, tight end, a couple of wideouts. We got some pieces there to, you know, we stay healthy to play with. And then defensively, we got nose guard, 3 technique, 2 linebackers, 2 safeties, 1 DB. We got to find some guys. Some guys got to step up in some other roles, you know, just like they do every year to take place. But we have a chance. We do. We have a chance to have a good football team. I hope I have not outscheduled us to a certain degree, you know.
Well, talking about that, so week 1, is that with it being the team just a couple miles up north, is that like extra exciting in the locker room? Do people care more for something like that, or?
Well, no, I mean, our guys for sure get excited about playing in those games. There's no doubt. I mean, and it's, you know, you got to ramp up the work a little bit to go play in those games. There's no question. I mean, it's going to take everything we've got and then some, you know, to play well and give ourselves an opportunity. But yeah, I mean, our guys would much rather play against Tennessee and Georgia State, no doubt. I mean, they would much rather do that than go play, no offense, you know, a Division II school or someone like that, you know, to start the season, or no offense to a non-scholarship school or something, you know, a Dayton or a Morehead State or something like that. So Yeah, and I think it's important for us. I think it's important for us to play the hardest people we can play, the best people we can play. Um, I think it helps us later on. I really do. I think it's going to help us later on because those first two games of the year, I'm not sure we'll play anybody in our league better than those first two teams. So I mean, so what do or do you learn from it and you grow from it? You figure out a way to get better from it, no matter what happens during those games, and help prepare you for the next 10. I've got to go play. And that's the biggest thing for us. Is I look at it as an opportunity for us. We're going to find out about our football team in the first 2 weeks. So I don't have to wait till week 3 or week 4 to kind of figure it out because we hadn't played anybody, and I think that's what happens a lot of time. Early on in seasons, you'll see somebody at our level, they'll play Tennessee, and then they'll play a Pioneer League school that doesn't have scholarships or something like that. And to me, that doesn't do us any good at the end of the day to go beat someone really, really bad and not get anything out of it except a win. Now, does it look better on my record? Sure it does, but I'm not sure at the end game that's better for us overall. I've never really worried about my record a whole bunch. I've just worried about trying to figure out a way to make us better during the season.
Yeah. Now, talking about learning about who the team is, even during those first 2 weeks. Now, we're recording this last day of May, but has anybody kind of stepped up to show they're capable of replacing a guy like Jay Person?
Well, we've seen some flashes, of guys in spots. I think that's the thing that comes from the summer and trying to play, and guys getting an opportunity to play is where you find that consistency in them. That they're going to be the guy play in, play out. We're going to trust you play in, play out to go do it. I don't know if you can replace a guy like Jay Person with one guy anymore. I mean, I think it's kind of like Moneyball a little bit. We're going to have to find 2 or 3 to kind of replace that production. I'm hoping, Chris Victor, or Joseph Backhole, or Marquise Freeman, or one of those guys steps up and takes that role. It's going to be hard to beat Jay, no lie. I mean, that's going to be hard to beat that guy. But I think one of those guys is capable of being consistently pretty good. And then we've got to get something out of the other 2 that aren't going the whole time, starting the whole time, to make up for it. That's the biggest thing. We get same thing for us at the corner spot. We lost Cam Brown, who was a really good player for us last year. So there's going to be 2 new guys in those 2 spots, and it's a matter of like, all right, who's going to take it, and then who can we rely on, to play the other one, and who's going to be the backup, and those kind of things. So those are all questions we got to get figured out, for us in the next, 80 days or whatever it is. I don't even know how long it is before we play again. But that's the thing, is I think that's what you're going to see from us is, we finished last year second in the league, and we had the least amount of all conference players, even though we had the defensive player of the year in the league. We only had like 7 all conference players last year. I mean, there were teams that had worse records than us and had better all conference players. And I think that's where this football team has got to continue to grow. It's got to learn how to be a football team the whole time. Every Saturday is different. We got to figure out how to win it and go from there. So, and I think that's one thing we've done a pretty good job of the last couple of years.
Now, talking about guys like Jay, or even in the past, Cole Strange, McClendon Curtis, does that help you on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, I mean, sure it does. Sure it does. Gives us an opportunity to say, you can make it from here. You're going to get an opportunity to go play from here. And I think the biggest thing is we've been able to sell, with guys like Cole, McClendon, Jay, Griffin McDowell, Clay Fields, those guys getting opportunities. I think the biggest thing is like they've come here and they've played every day, every down, and gotten better. So you've seen them progressively get better over time. And when I talk to the guys down at the Senior Bowl, and they're like, Coach, they gotta play. They gotta play every snap. It doesn't do them any good, to leave your place and go somewhere and play half the time, if they want a chance to play in the league. I was like, I get it. I tell them that all the time, and that's the one thing. I think that's the one thing that's helped a guy like Jay is he came here and he played every snap and he got better from year to year to year. You could see him get better. That's going to give him an opportunity. So, but I think that's the biggest thing is we can sell that here. Hey, you're going to get an opportunity from here to go. you got to take advantage of it by playing every snap and going through that. Give yourself that opportunity to go do that.
You mentioned Moneyball just a little bit ago,
Yeah,
and it there. I was at the On3 Elite event this week in
yeah,
Nashville,
yeah,
and Jimmy Sexton was there talking. And some
yeah.
of the stuff that he said was just, he was being very, very honest, but it was just a little, just as a fan, even almost upsetting hearing behind the scenes, like talking about agents literally uh, instructing a client to threaten to enter the transfer portal. Uh, so obviously the landscape has changed a lot.
Sure.
As a head coach, how does this new landscape of NIL and transfer portal stuff change your approach?
Well, we go round and round about it. We have some NIL stuff here for these kids. We have some guys that have opportunities. It's not a big a deal for us as it is for the Power Five or Group of Four, whatever the crap they're calling those teams now. I don't even know anymore. And I tell our guys all the time, I'm like, look, we got a handful of guys maybe could leave that's going to truly affect us, if they happen to transfer. And I look at it as a simple fact. If we have a guy leave that's a good player, I'm like, well, it's just like he got hurt and he's out for the year. So I'm like, we got to figure it out one way or another, whether it's backup, whether we got to change what we're doing, whatever. But it's a tough spot we're in right now, no question. You just got to adjust to it. We've had to adjust. About 3 or 4 years ago, we had to adjust how we recruited a little bit. We went from taking some transfers. We were getting some kids at one time, and then all of a sudden the NIL and the transfer portal all hit at one time. And some kids we typically got before that, we didn't get anymore. So we had to change, a little bit of our mindset and how we recruited some things. So we went back and we're signing more high school kids now the last 2 years than we've taken transfers, and which has helped us, I think, in the long run. It's not going to change. NIL's not going away. So you got to deal with it. Transfer portal's not going away. You have to deal with it, adjust. And I think we've adjusted about as well as anybody at times. I think we're going to have to continue. I think the only way anything starts to change is with all this, new stuff coming out and all these teams thinking about breaking away. If they would make these contracts public and see what guys are getting paid at places, I think that would change the tune of some things. It's not, again, the money's not going away. It's just going to be different. They can transfer now whenever they want. I mean, it was just another lawsuit or another deal yesterday that just came out where pretty much it's going to be open market every year. If you take an NIL deal at one school and you decide to leave, you should have to pay that money back, or there should be some penalty. And they say, well, coaches leave. Well, we do leave. Coaches do leave and take other jobs, but there are buyout clauses in there you have to pay back. And that's how all this all started. Well, coaches can go, but players can't, and well, now they can go whenever they want and go and take money and do these things, but there's no repayment. So, and the third thing is if they're at that level, no matter what, they should be able to transfer down at any point in time. If they're not transferring whatever that group is called now, or the Power Five or whatever it is, if they're transferring down to our level, it should just happen immediately and they should be able to go without having to do all those things. So, but we just try and change with the times. Sometimes we're ahead of it. Sometimes we're a little behind trying to get it figured out. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I can promise you that. So it takes me a minute to figure some things out.
I think everybody's having a role with this. It's just because it changes daily.
It does. And that's the biggest thing. I don't really worry about losing guys anymore. I mean, knock on wood, we've been very fortunate. Our best players have hung around for the most part. We've lost 2 all-conference players since I've been here in 5 years, going on 6 now, that were good players that left. Both of them went on and didn't have better years somewhere else than they would have if they would have stayed with us. I think our kids see that to a certain degree. I think our kids see some other guys that have left here that maybe not were all-conference players, but thought they were good players, not go to places they wanted to go when they left here. I don't let them, we don't bring guys back that enter the transfer portal. We let them go, so you're just trying to adjust with it, move on, and do the best you can. But it's hard. It's much harder now than it was when I first took the job of managing a roster. And that's what sucks. Like I said, you got a team you got in the spring, you got a team you got in the summer, and then you got one you got to go figure out you're playing with in the fall.
Yeah. One of the things that we heard is, and maybe it's just with like Power 5 or Power 4, I don't know if Pac-12 is
Whatever.
going to
Yeah.
exist, but basically the job of a general manager is almost inevitable, it sounds like, just because that's going to be needed.
At that level, for sure. When you're talking about those kind of things, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think at that level, there's no doubt. Ours, maybe not so much because you're not dealing in the finances as much as those guys are. In the constant movement, and that's the one thing that will drive coaches out of it is the constant movement of players. I mean, because even in the NFL, contracts are public. You have to go certain things to be a free agent. You have to. I mean, there's just certain things you have to deal with that they're not dealing with at our level right now, and it's kind of messing everything up.
So, Coach, one question everybody gets on the show, share with me one unforgettable sports memory for you. It could be from your childhood. It could be as a spectator or as an athlete or coach. Something that 20 years from now, you're never going to forget.
Well, never going to forget going to the Super Bowl. Giants and the Patriots. I've only done that once. Never going to forget winning the playoff game, first time in it, things like that. So, I mean, there's a couple like that, but those are the biggest two to me, had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. Never thought I'd be able to do that or have the time to do that, but had that opportunity, didn't pass it up. And then winning that playoff game last year was pretty cool to see these guys go through that, as a coach. As a player, probably beating Marshall here in 1992. 93, I'm sorry. Yeah, 93 when they were number one in the country. So that was a pretty cool night. So,
What was the play in your playoff win last year that there was something where I feel like Chase, what was it I'm thinking of?
We were throwing a ball away that got intercepted by Austin P, and then our wide receiver stripped it out of his arms and wound up scoring a touchdown off of it right before the half. It. Yeah, it was wild. I mean, it was absolutely wild. But yeah, but you got to have those things happen. I mean, those things have to happen for you, and that's when I knew we weren't losing that football game that night. I was like, I don't care what else happens, boys. We're not losing this one tonight. I said, when something like that happens, you're like, it's your day. It is. It's your day.
So, if I may run through just real quick, like a speed round, there's a few questions about players that you have worked with over the past. They could be past or current.
Okay.
Funniest player?
Marlon Taylor plays nose guard for us. He just makes me laugh. I don't know what it is. He just makes me laugh.
Who would make the best coach?
Ty Beck, I think. And he's working for a NASCAR team right now, so he won't ever get a coach.
Who's gonna have the longest playing career?
Ooh, that's a good one. I hope all of them do, but it's got to be the McClendon Curtis or Cole Strange. I mean, that's the thing. It's hard to find big people, man. They'll be around for a little while,
Yeah, and Cole works out with us at the D1 in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And it's funny to see just what he looks like. You're like, that's what an offensive lineman looks like now.
Yeah, well, some, and then you look at McClendon, who's 6'7", 330 pounds. I mean, that's the difference. Just depends on what you want, but
right.
They're two different animals. I mean, McClendon's big and can road grader. Cole's light on his feet, moving, going, and getting people. I mean, it's just completely different. But yeah.
Who would be the best broadcaster?
Ruben Lowry. Yeah, Ruben Lowry.
Who could best talk their way out of a speeding ticket?
I got a bunch of those guys that think they could. Probably Jay Gibson.
Okay. And one guy, this is always a fun one, that you would never let date your daughter.
Ooh. Jay Person, without a doubt, he would never be around my daughter.
I gotta say, I spent some time with Jay's family um, at a couple games, and then I ran into him at a high school game. I guess it
Yeah.
was Bradley Central, maybe.
Yes.
And I ended up watching like the entire half with his dad.
Yeah. Good
Great,
people.
great people. Yeah,
Yeah. Good people.
absolutely.
Just as good as people as you ever want to be around. Yeah.
Um, that's great, man. I really appreciate it.
No
Thank you so
problem.
much. I'll put this together and it'll be out in a couple weeks.
Yeah, you bet. Get a chance, come see us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. By the way, we've got Dave doing a clinic with us.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember Kevin Simon.
Name. Yeah. Name.
He played at Tennessee and then he was an
Right.
NFL scout for a while.
Right.
And we've got the event is because we've got a lot of kids specifically that are O line, D line, like middle school, high school kids that need extra training. There's not as many opportunities for them.
Sure.
So it's basically a lineman camp this summer with those two guys.
Well, keep as many of them guys, keep as many of those kids you can interested in it because there's not enough of them. I mean, I tell when we have our camps and we get the 9th and 10th graders here, I tell them all, I'm like, whatever you do, don't quit. Don't quit playing. It's going to get hard. It's going to be tough. It's going to be easy to, go back to your high school and see your homeboys not doing anything and all that and hanging out and all that. But there are not enough big kids playing football anymore. And it's hard, man. It is. It's hard to keep. Those are the toughest guys to find anymore. And they used to be all over the place, but now it's hard.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Yep.